Hey guys, welcome back. This is 𝗖𝗶𝗹𝗲𝗏 with another tutorial on the Kerio Control UTM series. In this video, I will be defining the default rules. I will show you how to reorder the rules, how to add rules, how to change the color of the rules, how to duplicate a rule, and how to change the description of the rule. Let's start. First of all, open the browser of your computer. Log into the Kerio Control administration panel. Under the configuration or settings menu, click the traffic rules submenu. Here you can see that some rules are pre-configured, such as VPN services, web service, internet access or NAT, local traffic, firewall traffic, guest traffic, and the rules by the name of block other traffic. First, you should know that rules are operated from top to bottom. Any rule which is on the top, it will be first evaluated, then Kerio Control will look to the second rule, then to the third rule. For instance, if you have enabled a service on the first rule, but you have disabled it on the third rule, it will be enabled because you have enabled it on the first rule. And the way the rules work or operate is from top to bottom. Let's start from the first rule. The first rule is by the name of VPN Services. The action is allow, which means it will allow all the connections from any source to the firewall, which are using 𝗖𝗶𝗍 services and Kerio VPN services with any type of IP. The second rule is web services. The action is also allow, which means that it will allow any kind of internet connection from outside, whether the source is internal or external, to the firewall. The destination is firewall, which means that it will allow any connection from any kind of source to the firewall, that the services are HTTP and HTTPS with any type of IP, if it is IPv4 or IPv6. The third rule is internet access or NAT. The action is allow. It means that any type of traffic from trusted rule or local interfaces, from guest interfaces, from VPN clients will be connected automatically to the internet interfaces, which means that it will allow any kind of connection from inside the network to the outside network, whether it's using VPN services, HTTPS services, or any other kind of services, and whether they are using IPv4 or IPv6. In the translation type, it is using NAT balancing per host. If you double click on the translation of the internet access rule, you will see that the NAT rule applies only to the IPv4 and it will perform the load balancing per host, which is good for better compatibility. Any request, if it is from inside to outside or from the outside to the inside, should always use NAT. It is NAT that will allow the connection to work properly. The fourth traffic rule is the local traffic. The local traffic rule will enable the local traffic between the firewall and the local network or any other devices that are connected to the network, which means that it will allow the connections between the network. As you can see, the source is firewall and the destination is also firewall. And the services does not matter if they are using VPN services, HTTPS services, guest services, or any other services. And the IP version also does not matter whether it's using IPv4 or IPv6. The fifth traffic rule is the firewall traffic, which means that it will enable communication between the firewall and the internet. You can see that the action is allow, which means that it enables any kinds of traffic from the firewall to to destination, which is any, to outside, to any kind of destination, and with any kind of services, and with any kind of IP. The fifth rule is the guest traffic, in which the action is allowed, which means that it will allow only the guest interfaces to access the firewall from outside to the firewall that are using the guest services, if that's IPv4 or IPv6. Point to be noted that the VPN services allows access to the VPN services on the firewall machine from the internet. The internet access rule, or NAT, allows any host from the local area network and VPN clients or guest interfaces to reach out internet using the address translation, or NAT, with the option of perform load balancing, and it is good for better compatibility. The last rule is block other traffic, which means that it will block all other traffic except for the above rules. That's why it is located at the end of the rules, which means that any rule except for these rules, VPN services, web services, internet access NAT, local traffic, firewall traffic, and guest traffic, will be blocked from any source to any destination with any kind of services and any kind of IP. The first part of the video, which was the default rules revision, is completed. Let's start the second part of the video, which is reordering the rules. To reorder the rule, select the rule and use the up and down buttons to reorder them. For example, I want the internet access or NAT rule to be the first rule. I will select it and press the up button to position it on the first. And I want the guest interfaces to be the second rule. So I will select the guest interfaces or guest traffic rule and press the up button till it becomes the second rule. And I want the VPN interfaces to be the second from the last. I will select the VPN services traffic rule and press the down button until it is second from the last. You can also drag and drop the rules. Select the rule, drag it, and place it anywhere you want. For example, I want the web services to be the last one. For example, I want the VPN services to go up and be the first rule. You can rearrange it using the up and down buttons or using the drag and drop. Let's create a new rule. For example, I have a database inside my network and I want to access it from the outside. How you can do that? First, let's create a rule. In the bottom of the screen, you can see there is an add button. Click the add button. A new rule will be created. First, it will ask you to name the rule. I will be naming it Inventory Unit Database, and the action will be allow because I want to give access. I don't want to deny the access or drop their connection. I want to give access, so I will select the allow option. Click on the source option. In the source, you will specify from which source the connection will be coming. I want to specify the internet interfaces. Any type of connection from internet interface, and I also want to allow the specific users that are using Kerio VPN. Now, any connection from the internet interfaces and from the Kerio Control VPN clients will be allowed to access the database. What will be the destination? Destination is the firewall. In the destination, you should select firewall because first they should access the firewall, and then you will be using the port forwarding to redirect them from the firewall to the specific database. That's why the destination should always be the firewall. And then in the services, as I mentioned earlier, that I will be using the port forwarding. So I will select the port and give the specific port number that is used for the inventory unit database. The port will be 8443. Click the OK button and then click the finish button the rule is created successfully. But we have not used NAT. This rule will not work. To use NAT, double-click on the translation. Here you should enable the source NAT because it is the NAT that will be translating the connection and redirect it to the inventory unit database. When you enable the NAT, use the default setting and use the load balancing option, which is good for better compatibility. In the destination NAT menu, you have to enable it first, and then here you should specify the IP address of the server where the inventory unit database is stored. For example, I will be using the IP address 10.10.10.5. It is the server where the inventory unit database is installed. Click the OK button. Now the rule will work because we have all the options enabled and finished the configuration. Let me explain the rule once again for you. The rule name is inventory unit database and the source, which means that any kind of internet interface connection and VPN clients connection will be allowed to access the firewall using the 8443 port, and they will be automatically redirected to this IP address, which is the IP address of the server where the inventory unit database is installed. Let me customize the rule a bit. Select the rule, click on the more options. Here you can change the color. You will specify which color should be used for the inventory unit database. For example, I will use the yellow color for this rule. I will use the brown color for the VPN services. I will use the purple color for internet access and the blue color for local traffic. You can customize them in terms of color. Here you can also specify the valid time of each rule. For example, I want the inventory unit database to be allowed only after the official hours, because during the official hours I will be working on the inventory unit database, and after official hours when I am going to home, I should be able to access it from outside the network, which is my home network. Double click on the valid option time, and here you can specify that the rule should be always allowed or during the upgrade window. In order to enable the valid time, first you have to make a time range for it. Let us apply this rule and create a time range. For example, I want the inventory unit database to be accessed from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. Go to the time range, click the add button to add a new time, name the rule inventory unit database time. Here you can also add a description. From the type of the time, you can select the daily, weekend or absolute. I will select daily, and from which time you have to specify the time. The time format is 24 hours, which means that 8 will be 20. From 20 up to 0800, which means that from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. I should be able to access the inventory unit database during all days of the weekend. Click the OK button and click on the apply button. Now go back to the traffic rules option, double click on the valid time. Now you can see that we have the time range for inventory unit database. If you specify the valid time, you will not be able to access the inventory unit database from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. because during this time, this rule will not be valid. It will only be valid from 8 of the night to 8 of the morning. Click apply button to enable the time configuration. For each rule, you can specify a description so that you know why you have created this rule. For example, I will be adding a new description for inventory unit database. Select the rule, click on the more actions button, and then click on change description. Currently, it does not have any description. I will give it a new description. For example, click the OK button, the description will be allowed, but you will not be able to see the description in the traffic rules menu. You have to select the rule, click on the more options, and then click on the change description to see the description of the selected rule. You can also enable any rule that you don't want to use. For example, I want to remove the VPN services rule. Select the rule and click on the remove button to remove the rule. And I also want to delete the inventory unit database. Select the rule and click on the remove button to remove the rule. Click on the apply button to apply the settings and click on the reset button to undo the changes that you have made. Once again, this is 𝗖𝗶𝗶𝗍𝗏 from TechForAll. That's all for today. Catch you on later with another video. Till then, have a nice time.